In 2008, Democrats turned Nevada from red to blue. Now, let's keep Nevada blue. Today's Keep Nevada Blue strategy is presented by Democratic strategist Ben Chao.
So, what are the things we need to remember about the stimulus? Things that the Republicans don't want to talk about. Things what we need to be talking about every single day. Number one, let us be clear with people across this district, across this county. The bailout that passed last year was a trickle-down policy that rewarded Wall Street for their excesses. The stimulus is a trickle-up policy that sends money straight to local communities in states where we need it most to create jobs. That is the difference. We didn't pass a second bailout. We supported a trickle-up policy that will put money where it's been needed the most for the longest. Number two, 95% of all Americans get a tax cut with the stimulus. You know how many people got a tax cut under the Republican bailout? 0. Yeah. $1 billion spent on putting more cops on the street in terms of community policing under the COPS program, something that Republicans cut for the last 8 years and fought against in this bill. They say, oh, this is supposed to be a job creation plan. Newsflash, when you slash budgets, cops, first responders, firemen lose funding, and they lose their job too. This is putting more cops on the street is, one, a smart thing to do, especially community policing, and then number two, it creates new jobs. It also, within the stimulus, the federal government will now pay 65% of COBRA payments. That is a big, big deal if you are someone who has lost their insurance because of an employer who's cutting back, or B, lost your job. It may very well be the difference between saving you from bankruptcy if you or someone in your immediate family falls into illness. It's a big deal. Republicans fought against that. A couple more things that I really, really like. $8,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. The Republicans say if we just cut taxes enough, then all of a sudden people will miraculously start building houses and buying houses again. It's foolish. They cut taxes for 8 straight years, and we saw what has happened. If you buy a car in the next year to help save the jobs in Michigan, the car industries, you get to write off all the sales tax on your car. The common sense measures that really smart people sat down and said, let us not argue over whose plan is right. Let us argue about what will create jobs and stimulate the economy immediately. Now, let me come to the biggie, and this is my favorite. $90 billion for infrastructure and roads that creates jobs. Now, Republicans say this will increase the federal debt. We cannot do this. We're leaving something that our children can't pay off. Let me assure you, if we did not pass the stimulus, we would be leaving our children with something that they wouldn't get out of. What we have done is we created an environment to create jobs. Now, there was a time, and I don't know to the extent of which it happened out here, but where I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and before that in Washington, and then before that in Atlanta, we had huge construction booms. And I can remember being that guy that woke up early in the morning and cursed those blessed banging hammers, those saws, and the loud music on construction sites. Last couple of years, I haven't been woken up early by banging hammers and saws and construction crews. What this bill does is it brings back the sweet sound of swinging and banging hammers, getting people back to work. If you work in a construction, in the construction trades, you've been sitting on the sidelines before the recession hit. I don't have to tell you that, but a lot of people need to hear it. What this bill does is it gets people back to work and starts to restore the things that we need to do to get our economy going again. But here is the thing that is most important for political purposes. If you are against these common sense things that I outlined, what are you for? How is it that a Republican can say you can't be for the stimulus when 95% of all Americans get a tax cut? It's more people getting tax cuts than any tax cut they ever passed. How can they possibly be against that? If you are against the stimulus, and I can assure you Republicans are rallying behind being against the stimulus. If you're against the stimulus, you haven't been to a rural area recently. You haven't been to where the plant is shut down. You haven't been where construction has been stopped because credit's been crunched. You haven't looked in the eyes of mothers and fathers who look at their children and don't really know what to tell them about how they're going to make it. The people who are against this bill are out of touch about what's happening across America, and we need to hold them accountable for it. Finally, on the stimulus, let us think about why it's important to win this political battle now that the legislative battle has been won. This was the first unplanned battle of President Obama's administration. Forget not. No one sat around in a strategy meeting and said, hey, why don't we pass a stimulus as the first thing? Nobody came up with that. This was out of necessity. If we don't win this political battle, how in the world is President Obama going to be able to pass a budget, which he's going to introduce this week, by the way? How in the world is he going to get our troops out of Iraq? How is he going to pass the most aggressive alternative energy plan in the history of humankind? And how is he possibly going to win the healthcare battle that has to be won? The time to win this battle on the stimulus is now. We cannot sit back and allow Republicans to chip away at everything that we've got passed in this bill. If we do not do this and win it county by county, precinct by precinct, convincing minds, delivering these messages that I outlined, we will lose to the big battles that lay before us. That's what's important about all this. I want to leave you with one quick thought. As we look at parties rebuilding, as we look at campaigns starting, a lot of people want to sit around and wait for the solution to reveal itself. And there's a great story out there about one of the best, and we all know his name really well, Rahm Emanuel, now White House Chief of Staff, former congressman from the Chicago area. He worked for the Clinton administration, had contacts everywhere. He left there and went on to be an investment banker. In 2 years, went from being sort of like me to being really, really rich. He could have written a check and won that race. But he realized that if he did that, he would attract someone who would go door to door, community to community, and possibly beat him. So Rahm Emanuel set out to say, I can write a check in this campaign, but I will not be outworked. He knocked on every single door, not every single likely voter, every single door in his district. Twice. This is a man who could write a check, had all the political connections, and knocked on every single door twice. Then he went out and raised several $1 million. And then he won his congressional race. What's important about this story is not the $1 million. It's not that he knocked on all those doors. It's not that he won this big, amazing campaign. Rahm Emanuel basically could have walked into that district without any altercation. He started in January the off year. I say that to say this. If you think you can sit back and wait to start talking about what's working in the stimulus, if you think you can sit back and wait to respond to Republicans, if you think you can sit back and wait to start campaigning for 2010, you're mistaken. We did it in 2008, and we had huge wins. I believe we can do it again. You guys have proved that when you work hard, you can make things happen. Start tomorrow. Deliver messages on the stimulus, and let's try and win this congressional race back. Thanks.
Keep Nevada Blue is a presentation of the Democrats of Douglas County, Nevada. Please subscribe to the Douglas Democrats YouTube channel now.